I think he's been an absolute revelation. I love watching him play. I love what he did in the summer.
For over a year, Kobbie Mainoo has been Manchester United's paradox. A teenager trusted in cup finals, European knockout ties and a major international tournament final, yet drifting between roles at club level.
You love Kobie, he starts for England, but that doesn't mean that I need to put Kobie when I feel that I shouldn't put Kobie, so it's my decision.
A midfielder who decides games, Wolves in stoppage time, Liverpool at Old Trafford, Manchester City at Wembley.
He oozes class. He took the ball in areas where you think an experienced player will be taking it, and he never once give it away.
Yet entered this season with just 318 league minutes, most of them from the bench. Then the system changed. A coach who understands midfield football arrived. A structure built on control, spacing and repetition returned. And in his first statement game, Michael Carrick trusted Mainoo in the middle of a derby. And Manchester United dominated Manchester City. The numbers hint at why. Even in limited minutes, Mainoo is still completing close to 90% of his passes, breaking pressure with clean carries, winning duels, and quietly raising the level of everyone around him. Carrick has already been clear, Mainoo is not a holding midfielder. He's a connector, the player who makes systems work. And now with a 4-2-3-1 that finally gives him protection and freedom, his influence doesn't stop with him. It reshapes how Ahmad receives, how Mbeumo attacks space, how Mazraoui advances, how Bruno stays higher, and how strikers like Xerxes, Šeško and Cunha get cleaner chances. This isn't about potential anymore, it's about alignment. Because when Kobbie Mainoo is placed in the right structure, Manchester United don't just look better, they become controllable, repeatable and dangerous again. This is exactly how Carrick's system turns Mainoo into the midfield multiplier, why it unlocks United's attack, and how this could shape the club's next decade. Kobbie Mainoo didn't become a talking point at Manchester United because people loved an academy success story. He became one because, over the course of a few months, he delivered something the club had been desperate for. A midfielder who doesn't panic when everything around him is falling apart. The first signs came quietly. Before the cameras were on him, the coaches already knew. When Mainoo stepped into the senior setup, the same word kept coming back. Comfortable. Not in a casual way. Comfortable in the way that matters for a midfielder. He plays with short, controlled touches, scans the pitch early, and has this rare ability to receive the ball with his back to goal and somehow turn it into something positive. That's what changed him from promising academy kid to why isn't he playing more? And once you're that player, every team sheet becomes a debate. Then came Everton away in November 2023, his first Premier League start. It wasn't just good for a teenager, it had the specific details that make you sit up and take notice. There was a moment on the goal line where United's keeper was scrambling. Danger was immediate, and Mainoo made a crucial clearance to prevent what looked like a certain goal. United's own match report highlighted it. Sky Sports praised him for looking brave and secure, built for the role. This matters because it frames the whole story properly. Mainoo didn't announce himself with a wonder goal or a moment of brilliance. He announced himself by passing the hardest test a young midfielder can face, surviving an away game without hiding. Days later, they threw him into a Champions League night in Istanbul against Galatasaray. He came on in the second half, replacing Sofyan Amrabat. Champions League away games are where young midfielders get found out. The noise, the momentum swings, the tactical stress. United were in a volatile match, and they gave him minutes in the middle of it. Another sign of trust. But if you want the moment, his name went mainstream. It's Wolves away on February 1st, 2024. United were protecting a lead, then it collapsed late. Stoppage time, legs are heavy, decisions usually fall apart. Mainoo did the exact opposite. He produced a calm, high-quality action to win the game. The Premier League match report called it a stunning stoppage time winner in a 4-3 thriller. Sky Sports captured the drama. Wolves equalised in stoppage time and Mainoo still found a 97th minute winner. Then the league itself put a stamp on it. Mainoo's goal won February 2024 Goal of the Month. That's the turning point, because once a teenager is deciding Premier League games in the 97th minute, he stops being a nice option. He becomes someone you build around. Then came April 2024, Liverpool at Old Trafford. United's match report confirms Mainoo scored one of the key goals in a 2-2 draw, part of that second half comeback. Sky Sports described it as a beautiful curled strike, not a scrappy moment, but pure quality. Now the story has three pillars: a pressure-proof midfielder, a big moment match winner, and a player who can deliver against elite opposition at Old Trafford. All of that built toward the performance that changed everything: the 2024 FA Cup final against Manchester City. Manchester United's official coverage confirmed Mainoo was voted United's man of the match. Independent match records list him as the official man of the match in the 2-1 win at Wembley. When you're the standout midfielder in a derby final at Wembley as a teenager, you don't go back to being a rotation project, you become a strategic asset. So why did he become such a huge talking point afterward? Because the next phase wasn't about a lack of talent, it was about a lack of clarity. Under Ruben Amorim, United's structure shifted. Sky Sports reporting on Amorim's dismissal made clear the club felt there was a refusal to adapt, a breakdown in confidence around the project. In that kind of environment, players like Mainoo can become tactical casualties even when they're performing, moved across roles, asked to do multiple jobs, used in patches rather than built into a fixed identity. That's why Free Kobbie Mainoo resonates. It's not just emotional fan talk, it's a football argument. His best traits show up when he's trusted to receive, turn and connect attacks, not when he's boxed into survival, defending for long spells. Here's the thing that makes this story so powerful. Right now, even with limited league minutes this season, the efficiency is still there. The Premier League's official stats show he's played 318 minutes, completed 194 passes at 89%, with 10 dribbles at 60% completion, plus tangible defensive contributions. So the story isn't Mainoo's form disappeared, it's Mainoo's platform shrank. Then came Michael Carrick. In his first game, Carrick beat Manchester City 2-0 at Old Trafford. Reuters noted it was a dominant derby win and specifically reported that Mainoo made his first league start under Carrick in that match. That's not a coincidence. It's a statement. Carrick is a midfield coach by identity. When a midfield coach walks in and immediately picks Mainoo in a derby, it tells you exactly how he sees him. Not as a risk, but as a solution. Mainoo's rise was built on big moments and composure under pressure. Amorim's phase turned him into a question mark. Carrick's arrival turns that question into an opportunity again. To understand why Kobbie Mainoo becomes dangerous under Michael Carrick, you first have to understand what Carrick values in midfield football and what he deliberately removes. Carrick's idea of control is not about volume of possession, it's about security before expression. Midfielders are given protection, spacing and clear reference points so they can play forward without fear of collapse behind them. That principle alone already separates this system from what came before. At Manchester United, Carrick has reverted to a familiar structure, a 4-2-3-1, the same base shape he used in roughly 90% of his matches as head coach of Middlesbrough. This matters because it immediately answers the biggest question around Mainoo. Where does he actually play? Under Ruben Amorim, Mainoo was asked to solve too many problems at once. In a 3-4-2-1, midfielders were often caught between covering wide spaces spaces, protecting a back three and supporting the attack. A structure that rewards specialists, not connectors. Mainoo's usage reflected that confusion. Appearances across multiple roles, limited rhythm, and reduced league starts. Carrick's system does the opposite. It simplifies the picture. In a double pivot, one midfielder anchors, the other connects. That second role, the connector, is where Mainoo thrives. Not as a static number 6, and not as a high-risk number 10, but as the midfielder just ahead of the first line of pressure, where the game speeds up and slows down on his touch. Carrick himself has been explicit about this profile. He does not see Mainoo as a pure holding midfielder. He sees him as a player who needs that little bit more freedom. Freedom to receive, turn and commit opponents. Even in a stop-start 2025-26 season, Mainoo's numbers quietly reinforce why this role suits him. In just 318 league minutes, he has completed 194 passes at 89% accuracy, completed 10 dribbles at a 60% success rate, won 23 duels, contributed defensively with tackles and interceptions. Those are not numbers of a passive midfielder. They are the numbers of a player who keeps possession alive and advances it. Under pressure, Carrick's structure doesn't ask Mainoo to rack up defensive actions deep in his own third. It asks him to win the second phase, then move the ball with purpose. That's exactly what he showed in the derby win over Manchester City. Starting alongside Casemiro, Mainoo repeatedly took responsibility in the middle third, receiving under pressure, recycling play, and allowing Bruno Fernandes to operate higher without constantly dropping into build-up. The balance worked immediately. Carrick's midfield spacing creates three critical advantages for Mainoo. Protected first touch. With a stable pivot behind him, Mainoo can receive on the half-turn instead of facing his own goal. This is where his composure stands out. Quick scans, soft touches, and immediate progression. Clear forward options. In the 4-2-3-1, the distances between midfield and attack shrink. Controlled defensive responsibility, Mainoo still defends. His tackle and duel numbers show that clearly, but Carrick's system ensures he defends zones, not emergencies. That distinction preserves his energy and decision-making. The most important shift under Carrick is psychological as much as tactical. Mainoo is no longer a player being fitted in. He is a player being planned around. Carrick understands that elite midfielders don't grow through constant role switching. They grow through repetition, receiving in the same spaces, solving the same problems, building instinctive relationships with teammates. That's how Carrick himself built his career, and it's the environment he is recreating. Under this structure, Mainoo's past performances, Wolves, Liverpool, the FA Cup final, stop looking like isolated moments. They start to look like previews. Because when Kobbie Mainoo is placed in a system that values control, clarity and progression, he doesn't just look comfortable, he looks inevitable. This is where theory becomes something real, not highlights, not moments of magic, actual mechanisms that work over and over again. Michael Carrick's structure is built to create chains, sequences where one good decision unlocks the next. In that chain, Kobbie Mainoo isn't the final action. He's the connector that makes every other action cleaner, earlier and more dangerous. Ahmad's best work happens when he receives the ball facing the defender, not with his back to goal. Mainoo's half-turn passing creates exactly that. Brian Mbeumo thrives on diagonal runs into the right half space. Mainoo's ability to slide passes between the lines rather than looping them wide increases the timing window for those runs. On the opposite side, Patrick Dorg benefits from Mainoo's patience. Instead of forcing early overlaps, Mainoo delays just long enough to pull the opposing winger inside, freeing the channel for clean progression. The result is simple. United's wingers receive the ball earlier and higher, which means more successful take-ons and fewer turnovers. Carrick wants his fullbacks active but not reckless. Noussair Mazraoui becomes crucial here. Mainoo's presence allows Mazraoui to push forward, knowing that if possession breaks down, it won't trigger immediate immediate chaos. Mainoo's duel numbers matter. Over 100 duels won in each of the last 2 full league seasons. When possession breaks down, he's often the first reset, not the emergency defender. This is why Carrick trusts him between the lines rather than locking him deep. Under previous systems, Bruno Fernandes was forced into constant build-up duty. Carrick flips that responsibility. Mainoo absorbs the connector workload, the passes that keep attacks alive, allowing Bruno to stay in zones where his output spikes. The numbers show the logic. Mainoo averages close to 0.29 expected assists per 90 in limited minutes this season, despite not being the primary creator. He's creating the conditions for creation. That's the difference between a midfield that survives and one that actually produces. Carrick's system is striker sensitive. It rewards forwards who make early, decisive movements rather than constant improvisation. Joshua Zirkzee benefits from Mainoo's timing. Zirkzee's strength is link play and wall passes, actions that need midfielders arriving at the right moment, not the loudest moment. Benjamin Šeško thrives on vertical service and second phase attacks. Mainoo's ability to recycle possession just outside the box increases shot volume without increasing risk. Matheus Cunha benefits from Mainoo's ball carrying. Cunha's diagonal drifting pulls defenders wide. Mainoo attacks the vacated lane, forcing centre-backs into decisions they don't want to make. The common thread: Mainoo doesn't need goals to make strikers better. He increases the quality of their touches. Carrick's press isn't frantic, it's conditional. Mainoo's role is to step forward only when the trigger is clear. A backward touch, poor body shape, or a forced sideline reception. His tackle and interception numbers show discipline: 46 tackles and 19 interceptions in 2024-25, without excessive fouling. That restraint keeps United compact and prevents the midfield from being bypassed in transition, the exact problem that undermined previous setups. Deadly doesn't mean flashy, it means repeatable influence. Under Carrick, Mainoo touches the ball more often in decision zones. His actions shorten attacking sequences. His presence raises the floor of everyone around him. The Wolves goal, the FA Cup final, the European moments, those stop being exceptions. They become outputs of a system. And that's the final shift. Kobbie Mainoo is no longer being asked to prove he belongs. He's being used to make Manchester United function. This is where everything converges, not in one game, not in one season, but in a direction. Michael Carrick's return has not simply reintroduced a familiar shape at Manchester United. It has restored a midfield philosophy the club has lacked for years. Control before chaos, clarity before risk. And in that environment, Kobbie Mainoo's importance shifts from promising talent to structural pillar. The key difference now is responsibility. Mainoo is no longer being evaluated by what he might become. He is being trusted with what the team needs to function. His profile, press-resistant, secure under pressure, progressive without being reckless, is exactly what Carrick's system demands at its core. When Mainoo plays well, United don't just look better in moments. They look coherent. That coherence is what elevates everyone around him. Wide players receive earlier and in better body positions. Creative midfielders stay higher and more dangerous. Fullbacks advance without exposing the team. Strikers receive cleaner service and clearer cues. And crucially, United stop chasing games emotionally. They start managing them. This is why Mainoo's impact under Carrick feels different from previous flashes. Those moments: Wolves away, Liverpool at Old Trafford, Wembley in the FA Cup final, were not accidents. They were previews of what happens when talent meets structure. What Carrick has done is remove the friction that turned those performances into isolated peaks. Now they become the baseline. At just 20 years old, Mainoo already owns experiences most midfielders never reach. Cup finals, European knockout nights, international tournaments. But experience alone does not guarantee growth. Systems do, repetition does. Trust does. Carrick understands that because he lived it. If this structure holds, Mainoo's next evolution is not just statistical, it's authoritative. He becomes the midfielder opponents plan around, the player who dictates rhythm, absorbs pressure, and decides when matches accelerate or slow. Not loud, not chaotic, just decisive. And that's the final truth of this story. Manchester United don't just have a talented young midfielder again, they have a reference point. A player who makes systems work, a player who makes teammates better, a player whose best football now feels inevitable, not hypothetical. Kobbie Mainoo isn't being freed anymore, he's being installed. And if this Carrick-led structure continues to grow, Manchester United may have quietly rebuilt their midfield around the one thing modern football values most: control.